AITA for cutting off my best friend after realizing she wasn't happy for me ever? When I met Clara, it felt like one of those instant, cinematic friendships. You know, the kind where two people just click, like the universe nudged you together. We met during our freshman year of college, in a literature class that met too early and dragged too long. She sat 2 rows behind me and always made snarky comments under her breath whenever the professor went off on one of his tangents. I laughed once, she noticed, and by the end of the semester, we were inseparable. Clara was everything I wasn't: loud, fearless, and magnetic. She had this way of walking into a room and making everyone turn their heads. People wanted to be around her, and I was always a little awed by how easy it seemed for her. I was quieter, more careful with my words, the kind of person who second-guessed every text before sending it. But somehow, we balanced each other out. She made me feel bold, I made her feel grounded. We shared everything: secrets, clothes, heartbreaks, and bad hangovers. She'd show up at my dorm at midnight with pizza and a bottle of cheap wine, crying about some guy who ghosted her, and I'd sit there listening for hours. And when I went through my first real breakup, she was the one who stayed with me, distracting me with movies and making sarcastic jokes until I laughed through tears. We used to say we were soul sisters. And for years, I believed it. After graduation, life pulled us in slightly different directions. She stayed in the city, bouncing between marketing jobs and side gigs. I moved an hour away for a stable position at a publishing company. But we promised distance wouldn't change anything, and for a while, it didn't. We still talked almost every day, sent each other memes, met for brunch twice a month. It wasn't the same, but it was enough. Then I met David. He was kind, patient, and thoughtful in ways that made me nervous at first. After dating a string of guys who treated me like an afterthought, his consistency felt foreign. Clara was the first person I told. She seemed excited, at least at first. She joked about wanting to approve him before things got serious. I laughed, thinking it was her being protective. But looking back, I can see the subtle shift began right there. She'd ask little questions that didn't sound like much on their own. Are you sure he's not too quiet for you? Don't you think it's weird that he doesn't post you on social media yet? Do you ever worry he's just boring? At first, I brushed it off as her teasing, but it started to get under my skin. It wasn't that she was saying anything overtly cruel, it was the tone. The faint, dismissive smile she'd give when I talked about him. The way she'd change the subject whenever I mentioned something good about my relationship. When David and I moved in together after 2 years, she stopped calling as much. She still texted occasionally, but the energy was different. Short replies, less warmth. Whenever we met up, she'd find a way to bring up how busy I'd become or how domesticated I was now. I laughed it off, but something about it always stung. The last straw came a few months ago. I'd gotten promoted at work, a big deal for me, after years of grinding through projects that no one seemed to notice. I was ecstatic. David took me out to dinner to celebrate, and afterward, I texted Clara to tell her. She didn't respond until the next day with a simple, "Congrats. Must be nice to have everything working out for you." No emoji. No excitement. Just that. It sat in my chest like a stone. I reread it over and over, trying to convince myself I was reading it wrong. Maybe she was having a bad day. Maybe I was overthinking. But when I called to talk, she didn't answer. A few days later, she finally called back, but the conversation turned sour fast. She said, "You've changed. You used to be fun. Now everything's about your job and your perfect boyfriend. You don't even need me anymore." I told her that wasn't true. That I missed her. That I wanted us to be okay. But she kept going. "You always make everything about you," she said. "You act like you're better now, like you've outgrown me." That last part hit me like a slap. Because it wasn't true, but maybe, deep down, she believed it was. After that call, we didn't talk for 2 weeks. Then one morning, I woke up to see she'd unfollowed me on every social platform. I texted her, "Are we really doing this?" She replied, "You made your choice." And that was it. 10 years of friendship, gone in a single message. For months, I told myself I was fine. That maybe it was just time to let go. But there's this hollow space that hasn't gone away. Sometimes I still catch myself wanting to text her when something funny happens or when I hear a song we used to sing drunk at parties. I don't hate her. I don't even think she's a bad person. But I think maybe she couldn't love me once I stopped needing her. And that's the kind of grief no one really talks about. After Clara cut me off, I expected to feel angry or at least justified. Instead, it felt like losing a limb. It's strange how friendship heartbreak hits differently. There's no dramatic breakup scene, no clear villain. Just silence that gets louder every day. For a while, I tried to distract myself. I poured all my time into work, into David, into pretending I was fine. But there were moments when the quiet became unbearable, when I'd scroll through old texts and see our inside jokes, our ridiculous plans, the nicknames we gave each other. Every message felt like a ghost. Sometimes I'd dream about her. Always the same. We'd be laughing about something, and I'd turn to say something, but when I looked again, she'd be gone. I'd wake up with that hollow ache in my stomach, the kind that comes from loving someone who doesn't love you anymore. David tried to help, but he didn't understand. He'd say things like, "People drift apart, babe. It's just life." And he was right, technically. But this didn't feel like drifting. It felt like being pushed. About 3 months after the fallout, I went to visit my old college friends, a small reunion at a bar downtown. It had been forever since I'd seen most of them, and part of me hoped the change of scene would help. But as soon as I walked in, I saw her. Clara. She was standing near the bar, laughing, surrounded by people. She looked exactly the same, confident, glowing, like nothing had happened. Our eyes met for half a second, and I swear I saw something flicker there, surprise, maybe guilt, maybe nothing at all. Then she turned back to her group and kept laughing. I thought about leaving, but one of my friends spotted me and waved me over. So I stayed. The whole night felt surreal, like watching my old life through glass. At one point, I overheard someone ask Clara if she and I still talked. She shrugged and said, "Not really." She got too busy for me. I didn't confront her. I couldn't. Instead, I smiled through the rest of the night, pretending not to notice when she avoided looking my way. But the next morning, one of our mutual friends, Hannah, texted me. "Hey, I don't know if I should tell you this, but Clara said some stuff about you last night." My stomach dropped. "What kind of stuff?" There was a pause. Then, "She told everyone you cheated on David. Said that's why you moved in with him so fast, because you felt guilty." I remember just staring at the screen, numb. I'd never cheated. Never even come close. I called Hannah immediately. She sounded uncomfortable but honest. "I didn't want to believe it," she said. But she sounded so sure. She said she caught you flirting with some guy at a party last year and that David doesn't know. The memory hit me like a punch. I knew exactly which party she meant, a coworker's engagement celebration. David couldn't come because of work, so Clara tagged along. I talked to one of my colleagues for maybe 5 minutes about a book of all things. She teased me about it afterward, saying, "Careful, your boyfriend might get jealous." I'd rolled my eyes. I never thought she meant anything by it. Now it all made sense. That night, when David came home, I told him everything. I was shaking, terrified he'd believe her. He didn't, thank God, but I could see the doubt flicker across his face for just a moment. That 1 second was enough to shatter me. I texted Clara. I didn't bother being polite. "I know what you said about me. Why are you doing this?" She read it. No reply. I sent another. "You know that's not true." Still nothing. Then, hours later, she finally replied. "Maybe if you didn't act so perfect all the time, people wouldn't believe it." That was the moment I stopped crying and started seeing her clearly. For years, I'd believed we were equals, that our friendship was built on love and trust. But it wasn't. It was built on power. She needed to feel needed. And when I stopped orbiting her, she needed to make sure no one else saw me as the good one. It's easy to call someone toxic when they're obvious about it, when they scream, or lie, or cheat. But Clara's toxicity was quieter. It came wrapped in loyalty, disguised as love. Over the next few weeks, rumors spread. Subtle, whisper-level gossip, enough that a few friends started asking questions. One even said, "I don't believe it, but you should talk to her, clear things up." But I didn't. I refused to keep playing her game. Instead, I started writing again. Journaling, yes, but also essays, little reflections on friendship, envy, identity. I didn't publish them. They were just for me. I wrote about how strange it is to lose someone who's still alive. How grief for friendship doesn't get sympathy because people don't take it seriously. I started healing slowly, awkwardly. But then came the message that almost undid me completely. It was from her. Out of nowhere. Months of silence, and then suddenly. Can we talk? Please. I stared at it for 10 minutes before replying. Why no? I messed up. Can we just talk? Against my better judgment, I said yes. We met at a coffee shop, neutral ground. She showed up late, as always, in her oversized coat and sunglasses. When she saw me, she smiled that same dazzling smile that used to make everyone forgive her instantly. I didn't mean for things to get so bad, she said. I didn't speak. She sighed. I was just hurt. You got everything I wanted, and I felt left behind. I said things I shouldn't have. I'm sorry. It sounded rehearsed. Like she was reading lines she didn't believe. So I asked, are you sorry because you regret what you did, or because people found out? She blinked. That's not fair. Neither was what you did. She looked away, tapping her fingers on the table. You've changed, she said finally. You're colder now. I had to be. We sat in silence after that, sipping lukewarm coffee, two strangers pretending to still be friends. When we finally left, she hugged me goodbye, tight, desperate, almost possessive. She whispered, "You'll always be my best friend." I didn't say it back. After that coffee, I told myself I'd accepted her apology, but deep down I hadn't. I just wanted to stop feeling angry. I wanted to stop replaying the same conversations in my head, her laugh, her dismissive tone, the way she made everything my fault. Forgiveness, I've learned, isn't a single moment. It's 1,000 small ones, and sometimes you fake the first few just to get through the day. For a while, things were civil. She started texting again, short, cautious messages. How are you? Saw this meme and thought of you. Let's grab lunch soon. I didn't want to fall back into old patterns, but part of me missed her too much to stay distant. There's a strange comfort in familiarity, even when it hurts you. So I said yes to lunch. It was almost normal. We laughed about old college stories, caught up on mutual friends. She complimented my new haircut, asked about my job, even about David. But underneath the surface, there was something off, like she was studying me, trying to gauge what she could still access. After lunch, she hugged me tightly and said, "I've really missed you. Let's not drift apart again." I wanted to believe her. So I let her back in slowly. At first, it felt harmless, a text here, a coffee there. But soon, it was like no time had passed. She'd call me late at night to vent about work, about guys, about how she didn't have anyone else who really understood. I'd listen, even when I was exhausted, because that's what I'd always done. Then she started talking about David more. Subtle at first, he seems nice, then sharper. Does he ever get jealous? He seems like the jealous type. Are you sure he's right for you? You're such different people. You're happier than I expected. It's weird, seeing you so happy. I told her to stop once. She laughed. God, you're so sensitive lately. I realized she was testing me, seeing how far she could push. And I failed, because I still kept answering her calls. I kept showing up, like a moth circling the same flame that already burned me. One night, she came over for dinner. David was working late, so it was just the two of us. I poured us wine, we ordered takeout, and for the first hour, it almost felt easy again. Then she noticed the photo on the fridge, me and David at the beach last summer. She stared at it for a long time before saying, "You know, I still can't picture you two together. You're too different." Something about her tone made me uneasy. Different how? She shrugged. He's calm. You're intense. He's quiet. You need attention. She said it casually, sipping her wine. I laughed, but it came out forced. That's one interpretation. She smirked. Don't get me wrong, you make it work. I just don't think he really sees you. That night after she left, I couldn't sleep. Her words kept echoing. And that was her power. She knew exactly where to poke, exactly what to say to make you question yourself. A week later, David mentions something strange. "Hey," he said one night, "did Clara reach out to you about me?" I frowned. "What do you mean?" "She messaged me on Instagram. Just something weird. She said she was planning a surprise for you and needed my help." I felt my stomach twist. "What kind of surprise?" He shrugged. "I don't know." I didn't respond. I didn't either, to her, I mean. But I watched. A few days later, she posted a photo on her story, a wine glass, a table that looked suspiciously like ours. The caption said, "Some people forget who their real friends are." I didn't reply. I blocked her instead. She called the next day 3 times. I didn't pick up. Then she texted, "You're overreacting again." Then another. "I was just joking." Then another. "You always think the worst of me." For a while, the messages stopped. I thought maybe it was over, that she'd finally moved on. But then little things started happening. A coworker mentioned that someone had called the office asking about me. Said they were an old friend, she told me. She was asking if you still worked here. Then, a few weeks later, David got a text from an unknown number. It said, "She's not who you think she is." He showed it to me immediately. There was no name, but we both knew. That's when I changed my number. Deleted social media for a while. I even started walking home a different route, not because I was afraid of her exactly, but because I didn't trust what she was capable of anymore. The worst part? She still found ways to reach me. New accounts, new numbers, always with the same tone, a mix of guilt and accusation. "I'm just trying to make things right. You think you're so perfect now. You used to care about me." It was like she couldn't stand the idea that I'd chosen peace over her chaos. One night, around 2 a.m., I got another message from an unknown number. "You can't erase people. I'll always be part of your story." I didn't sleep that night. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, realizing she was right in a way. She was part of my story, but not the way she wanted to be. A few days later, I went to therapy again. Elise listened, then asked, "What would it mean for you if she finally disappeared?" I didn't know how to answer. Because part of me, the broken, nostalgic part, still missed her. Still wanted her to be the person she used to be. But that person never existed. She was a version of herself I'd created, someone I thought loved me the way I loved her. That realization didn't bring peace right away. But it did bring clarity. So I did the one thing I hadn't done yet. I wrote her a final message. Not to send, just to write. It said, "You were my best friend, and I'll never pretend you weren't. But loving you meant shrinking myself, and I'm done living small. I hope you find peace, but not at the cost of mine." Then I deleted every old message, every photo, every reminder. That night, for the first time in years, I slept through the night. Time passed quietly after I blocked her again. For the first few weeks, I kept waiting for the next text, the next hint that she'd found another way to slip into my life. But nothing came. The silence was unnerving at first, then soothing. I began to trust it. David and I settled into something calm. We cooked dinner together again. We went on walks without checking our phones. I laughed easily, the kind of laugh that feels new in your own mouth. I thought maybe, finally, the storm had passed. Then one Saturday morning in early spring, I walked out of the grocery store and saw her across the parking lot. Clara. She was leaning against her car, arms crossed, waiting. For a second I thought about pretending I didn't see her. But she waved, her expression unreadable. Something in me knew that if I walked away now, she'd just keep showing up. So I walked over. "Hey," I said, keeping my voice neutral. She smiled, small, careful. "You look good. What are you doing here?" I wanted to talk. "I asked you to stop contacting me." "I know," she said. "But you never gave me a chance to explain." The anger I'd buried for months flickered alive again. "Explain what? That you lied about me? Tried to mess with my relationship? What's left to explain?" She looked down, twisting her keys in her hands. "I wasn't lying. Not really." That stopped me. "What?" "I mean, I exaggerated," she said quickly. "But you did flirt with that guy. Everyone saw it." I laughed, sharp, humorless. "So you destroyed our friendship because I talked to someone at a party?" She didn't answer. You ruined my reputation, Clara. You tried to turn people against me. Her eyes filled with tears, but her voice stayed steady. You were leaving me behind. I could feel it. Every time we talked, you sounded happier, and it wasn't with me. I panicked. I wanted to feel sympathy, but all I felt was exhaustion. You could have said that, I told her. You could have just said you felt left out. You didn't have to hurt me. She stepped closer. I didn't mean to. I didn't know how to be without you. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The parking lot buzzed with ordinary life, carts clattering, car doors slamming, while the two of us stood frozen in the middle of a friendship that had long since rotted. Finally, I said, Clara, I don't hate you. But I can't keep letting you rewrite what happened. You crossed lines you can't uncross. Her lip trembled. So that's it? You're done with me. I've been done for a long time, I said softly. She looked at me then, really looked, and something inside her seemed to collapse. You used to need me, she whispered. I did, I said. But I needed peace more. I turned to leave, and she didn't stop me. When I glanced back, she was still standing there, staring at nothing, the wind tugging her hair across her face. That was the last time I saw her in person. A week later, she sent one final email. No apology, no accusations, just a single paragraph. I know I made mistakes. You were the best friend I ever had. I hope you find people who love you better than I did. I read it once, then archived it without replying. There was nothing left to say. After that, life started to move again. Slowly, naturally. The ache didn't disappear, but it softened. Sometimes I'd pass a place we used to go, the diner by campus, the bookstore downtown, and I'd feel that old mix of nostalgia and sadness. But instead of drowning in it, I let it pass through me. In therapy, Elise asked me what I'd learned from all of it. I told her that friendship can be a mirror. Sometimes it reflects love, sometimes it shows you the parts of yourself you're afraid to see. Clara had been both. She'd made me braver and smaller, stronger and lonelier. Elise smiled gently. And now? Now I'm learning to live without the mirror. It's been almost 2 years since that morning in the parking lot. Sometimes I still dream about her, not the chaotic, angry version who haunted my phone, but the one who used to sprawl on my dorm bed, laughing with her head thrown back, making plans for futures we never lived. In the dream we're always 20, before life and envy and comparison tangled the simple thing we had. I wake up missing her, and then remember the rest of it, and the ache folds back into the quiet it came from. The quiet has become my favorite part of life. It isn't lonely anymore. It's clean. I kept some of the photos. Not many, just a few Polaroids tucked in a box. Elise told me I didn't need to erase every trace of her, only the ones that kept reopening wounds. So the framed pictures are gone, the social media tags deleted, but those small square memories remain. They remind me that love existed once, even if it didn't last. My world is smaller now, but steadier. David and I got engaged last spring, something that still feels fragile to say out loud, like a secret I need to protect. He's met some of my new friends, people who didn't know me as half of an inseparable duo. They only know me as me, and there's a strange freedom in that. Sometimes people ask if I ever hear from her. I don't. Not directly, at least. I've seen her name pop up in tagged photos on mutual friends' posts, a wedding, a concert, a birthday dinner. She looks happy. I want that to be true. I used to imagine her seeing pictures of my life, feeling the same pang I once felt seeing hers, but that fantasy faded too. We're just two people who used to know each other so completely that the absence itself became its own kind of knowledge. Every once in a while, when I'm teaching my art class, one of my students paints something that reminds me of her, bright colors clashing in a way that shouldn't work but somehow does. I catch myself smiling. It's strange to realize I can think of her without flinching now. Elise says that means I've forgiven her. I'm not sure if that's the right word. Forgiveness sounds too clean, too final. What I feel is softer, a kind of acceptance. I've stopped needing her to be the villain so I can be the hero. We were both just people who loved badly, each in our own way. One evening last month, I found myself near our old campus. The bookstore where we used to kill time between classes was still there, smelling of paper and dust and coffee. I walked through the aisles, running my fingers over the spines, and for a second it felt like no time had passed. Then I saw a copy of Jane Eyre, the book we'd both obsessed over back then. I picked it up, flipped through it, and tucked it under my arm. At the counter, the cashier smiled and said, "You look like you found something you lost." I smiled back. Maybe. That night, I wrote her one last unsent letter. It wasn't angry or nostalgic, just honest. "Clara, I used to think friendship meant never letting go. But maybe it means knowing when to. I hope you're happy. I hope you're loved. I hope you learned that needing people doesn't mean owning them. I'm still learning that, too." Then I folded the letter, slid it between the pages of the book, and placed it on my shelf. Not a memorial, just a marker, like a chapter break. Life goes on quietly now. Mornings start with coffee and sunlight on the kitchen counter. Evenings end with laughter that doesn't come from obligation. Sometimes I catch myself glancing at my phone, half expecting her name to appear one last time, not out of fear, just curiosity. It never does. And maybe that's the real ending. Nothing dramatic, no final words or grand closure. Just distance, peace, and the faint echo of a friendship that once felt like forever. When people ask about my past, I sometimes tell them I lost a friend I thought was family. They always want to know what happened, who was right, who was wrong. I never have a simple answer. All I say is, we loved each other until it hurt, and then we stopped. And honestly, that's enough.